What is up, y'all? Dallas fan 1997 here, guys. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about the New York Yankees, my New York Yankees. You know, I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan, as you guys know. I mostly talk about the Cowboys on this channel, but I have made some New York Yankees videos from time to time. I've made some, college football videos regarding my Notre Dame Fighting Irish and my alma mater, the Utah Utes football. So I wanted to talk about that a little bit today. So my Yankees, my 27-time World Series champion New York Yankees, signed Cody Bellinger to a 5-year, $162.5 million contract. And I'm happy about this as a New York Yankees fan. You know, there's been this whole contract situation with Cody Bellinger here the last couple months. You know, he wants a different deal. Yankees want a different deal. And I was a little worried that we weren't going to be able to re-sign Cody Bellinger. And I think it was important to get this done. You know, Cody Bellinger is a guy that does have ties to the Yankees organization. You know, his father played for us back in the late 90s, early 2000s in our farm system. And along with, he's actually on one of the teams that won the World Series, I think, between 96 and 2000. I can't remember which year it was. I want to say 99, but I could be wrong. But he does have ties to the New York Yankees organization. And he was a solid player for us last year. You know, he had a pretty decent season with the Yankees, both as an offensive player and as a defensive player. You know, he's an outfielder. And I just thought it was very important for the New York Yankees to sign Cody Bellinger going into 2026. And I'm glad that this contract situation is finally done with. I'm glad that we came to an agreement. And I think this is a great signing, you know, by the New York Yankees. I think Bellinger is a really good player. He helped us a lot last year. And, you know, it's gonna be good for us going into 2026. I mean, if we think about who the Yankees have right now, right? Our outfield, I feel like, is going to be pretty set going into 2026. We're going to have Judge, of course. We're going to have Bellinger. And we're going to have Trent Grisham. Plus, we got Jason Dominguez as well. Giancarlo Stanton, he is getting a bit older. But, you know, I still feel like he's got some talent. As long as he can stay healthy, he can be a solid player for us. And he actually played a little bit in the outfield last year, too, due to Aaron Judge being hurt. So, you know, we got some talent there in the outfield. Now, the infield, that's where things get a little bit dicey. You know, Ben Rice is probably going to be starting full-time for his first year at first base. You know, we had Paul Goldschmidt doing that last year. And I think the Yankees may miss Paul Goldschmidt a little bit. You know, he's a bit older, but he was a very good first baseman, and he was a very good offensive player last year. He had a really good season hitting, batting offensively. So I think we'll definitely miss him. But Ben Rice, hopefully he takes that next step. He definitely showed some promise this year at times, and he can be our first baseman. You know, we got Jazz Chisholm. Jazz Chisholm's pretty solid there at second base. Anthony Volpe, you have to say he's still kind of a question mark going into year 4. You know, Volpe, very up and down. You know, I thought he had some promise in the 2024 postseason, but he was very disappointing last year. In 2025, had a horrible year. Yankees got to figure out the shortstop position for sure. That's definitely a question mark going into 2026. And then third base, we got Ryan McMahon. You know, Ryan McMahon is a guy that we picked up from the Colorado Rockies, and I think he's a really good player. He was a good signing for the Yankees. And then at catcher, we got Austin Wells. I think Austin Wells is solid. You know, I still think his hitting needs to get a little bit better, but I think he's developing nicely into a solid player. I definitely think he was better in 25 than he was in 24. That's for sure. So, you know, I think the Yankees in 2026 will have a solid team overall, as long as we don't have a ton of injuries, especially to somebody like Judge. I think the Yankees will definitely be a playoff contender. We're going to have a tough time, though, because, of course, Toronto Blue Jays in our own division, they're going to always be tough. Boston Red Sox, who I can't stand, they're going to be tough. And then, of course, in the rest of the American League, you got teams like the Detroit Tigers, who are good. You got the Seattle Mariners, who were pretty good last year. So I feel like the Yankees can contend, but as long as we stay healthy. Pitching rotation's definitely still a question mark. You know, our starting rotation, I think the Yankees have one of the best. I think we have one of the best starting rotations in the entirety of Major League Baseball. I mean, you got Garrett Cole, who's coming back. You got Max Fried, who's coming back. You got Carlos Rodon. All three of those guys are all-stars. Plus, you have Cam Schlittler, who came on really strong towards the end of the year, who's a rookie last year. I think he's going to get better in year 2. I really liked what I saw from him last year, especially in the playoffs. Hopefully, he can carry that into 26. And then you have Luis Gil, who's still, he was recovering from injury most of the season last year. I think he'll be better in 2026. So you look at our rotation starting-wise, that's a really good rotation right there. Really good rotation. Now, the bullpen is kind of where we're, going to have some question marks. Luke Weaver, it sounds like he's not going to be back next year, which is, he kind of lost that magic anyways. I don't think Devin Williams is going to be back next year. I could be wrong about that, but, I'll check into that. But our bullpen is still kind of a question. We still got David Bednar, though, who we got from Pittsburgh, so I like that. Overall, we'll just have to wait and see as Yankee fans what we do this year. But congrats to Cody Bellinger on getting this contract. I think it's a good contract. I think it's well deserved. I think he's a good player, and I think he can still play at a high level for the next at least 3 to 4 years of this 5-year deal. So, welcome back to the Yankees, Cody Bellinger. Congrats on the deal. I'm excited for this season. I'll catch you all later. Peace.